Hey, what's up, traders? Good morning. It is Wednesday, slight little later start, Wednesday, November, what is it? November 13th, and we're getting right into it with EV, right? Tesla, as we've seen, has rallied immensely over the last few days, is trying to gap higher right now, while the equity market, on the other hand, has been struggling a little more and is pulling back a little more. So, when we're looking at these things, we have Tesla rivals in the news. We got Rivian, we have Volkswagen, we have other factors, and the overall market is still kind of holding out, right? Yeah, okay, we are close to all-time highs, but we are holding out a little more in comparison to a lot of these big tech names. So, first and foremost, right, the numbers don't lie. We have some serious difficulties with finances and software architecture and pairing together one of Europe's storied car makers and loss-making EV startups across the pond. And their new joint venture will be called the Rivian Volkswagen Group Technologies. And will strive to keep both groups competitive in the new era for the auto world. That includes fending off threats from the dominant rivals like Tesla, as well as Chinese competitors that are driving into markets across the globe. So Rivian is losing $1 billion a quarter, right? It's about $30,000 to $40,000 per truck it sells, with current volumes not enough to sustain its spend rate. Unless it acted quickly, bankruptcy could have been in the cards. So especially given a high borrowing cost and trends pointing to an EV slowdown. Meanwhile, Volkswagen is facing challenges of its own, including in-house innovation and breaking into the software-defined market. So problems with its software subsidy called Car Aid. I don't even know. Car IM Digital. That's what it stands for. So have delayed multiple car launches from brands like Audi and Porsche, which are crucial for the VW due to the high profit margin. So the issues previously led to the shakeup at Volkswagen, leading to the ouster of CEO Herbert Diess. He was replaced with Porsche brand leader Oliver Blume, who overhauled the leadership, so last year, with a new chief software officer from Rivian. So it also triggered to rethink how Volkswagen would approach underlying vehicle architecture, and eventually the car maker turned to an industry startup, i.e. Rivian, that was having success with its design and ownership of its electronics on board, but needed a cash lifeline and favorable supply chain pricing to grow in a meaningful scale. So Volkswagen has now planned to invest $5.8 billion in Rivian, and the joint venture by 2027, up from the earlier commitment of $5 billion outlined in June. So the funding will be tied to specific milestones, including success and combinations in software, hardware, data, and network architecture, and it will also give VW better access to the North American truck market and might even lead to a bigger investment in total acquisitions in the future. So we also have, right, the biggest the biggest news event this morning / maybe potentially this week was the CPI data. So CPI data comes out. We have the CPI, the US CPI year over year. The prior was 2.4. It came out at 2.6 as it was expected. So a slight little incline from the prior, but right in line with the expectations of a slightly hotter print. The US CPI month over month came out at 0.2%, 0.2%, which is expected and the same as the prior. And the US core CPI, it came out the same as expected and the same as prior at 3.3%. So the US core CPI month over month, again, 0.3%. What we had was pretty much in line across the board in terms of CPI data, and with that, the markets did initially rally but are pulling back right now in a larger scale of some kind of sell-side pressure that's happening into these markets in the current standing. So we've peaked out, we've hit a recent top, we've hit some key areas on the S&P and the NASDAQ alike, and right now what's going on is we're seeing some added sell pressure attempting to break lower. We've got a lot of Fed speakers that are coming on the wire today. We have Fed's Kashkari that is speaking right now. We've got Fed's Williams that starts at 9:30 a.m. We got Fed's Logan at 9:45. We got Fed's Musalem at 1, and then Fed Schmidt at 1 as well. I don't think all of these are voters, so we got to take this with a grain of salt. But it seems that we do have a lot of potential tape bombs. Like we saw yesterday, some Fed speakers came on, the markets did jolt a bit, but we have to be a little more cautious about what's going on. I'm still looking at this on the Nasdaq and the S&P as a little more sustained bearish pressure that's trying to happen into the current markets as things stand, but we would need to see acceptance and continuation lower. There was a little more weakness on the S&P yesterday, but right now as things stand, I am still looking at that 30 area as a key factor to try and push prices lower, but the sell side would have to start moving and running under that 59.85. That's a very, very important factor for us. And the S&P, I would say, is a little more neutral to mixed right now going into this pre-market session. So I have an area at 60.10, which is going to be pivotal. Around 60.10 is going to be a very big pivot, 60.10 to 68. And as long as we can hold that to the upside, I think that they can explore a little higher. But the pressure is on for some of that bear side momentum that's happening right now. And we got to be aware of what's going on from there. So just keeping that in mind, let's go forward. I am a little more inclined to look at this from the perspective of some potential sell side pressure that's happening in this market from these higher prices, but we have to start breaking lower. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's open up our live trading room on a shorter update today and see how we can take advantage of this and see if the bear pressure is still on. Now, for that bear pressure to break, I would have to see the S&P under that 60.10. I would have to see Nasdaq breaking that 110 area. We have to start seeing some kind of larger downside press that happens throughout those areas. So let's keep that in mind. Let's go forward, slight little bear lean, and we'll see what is cooking in these markets today. So thank you and take care, everyone.